Lemon Amiga present. A Playguide video review. Sit back and enjoy the show.
Hi there, welcome to another Lemon Amiga Playguide and review. In this week's episode, we'll be checking out Hollywood Poker Pro, developed by Reline Software and released to the public in 1989. The game begins with a thematic introduction as the company logo scrolls onto the screen with the credits of the game and an animated dance by Veronica Mosinger. I remember at the time, nothing else quite matched this for an animated dance, and you might think this is reminiscent of the Spaceballs demo, but that actually came later in 1992, with the Nine Fingers following that in 1993. So at the time, digitized ladies on our Amiga screen was a very catchy environment. Admiring Veronica and this great music by Chris Hulsbeck, it's time to press that left mouse button and head on to the game itself. Hollywood Poker Pro features 4 ladies. You can see Miriam, Bridget, Frances and Inez, and they are French ladies, this being a French game, and Reline famous apparently for their adult themed games. And these ladies range in difficulty. Inez is the easiest and Miriam is the hardest. Hollywood Poker Pro is a draw poker simulator in which we have to draw cards, and the outcome of those cards, if it is higher or lower than the opponent, will determine whether they keep on an item of clothing or not. And it's my shirt versus the lady's shirt first of all, and if we get a series of poor cards right from the get-go, it means that sometimes we can get slaughtered and booted out of this pretty darn quickly. Added to this game actually features adaptive AI, which means these characters will adapt to our plays if we should play the same way a number of times. And so you can see in this case we have a lowly pair, Jack High, and from out of the blue the opponent player pulls out a huge hand, and unfortunately if we lose all the money in our pot, then the round is over. Moving on to the second toughest opponent, Bridget, we find ourselves in a virtually no way back situation. We can force her to drop and win the pot by betting high sometimes, and that can work early on, but perhaps not with this opponent. She certainly gets wise to that very quickly. So what I have actually tried to do is to get a flush together, but I ended up with nothing, so I dropped that hand completely. And sometimes dropping a hand will throw away a few credits, so I throw into the pot, the ante, as the game goes on, and I think that you have to pledge more money each round. So it starts with 5 credits, and then goes up to 10, 15 and so on. So the pot raises and the stakes raise with every match, and it should start off pretty easy, but as you've seen, sometimes these matches can go on for seconds or minutes, and sometimes these rounds can go on for hours, because it can be a furious battle trying to take off one piece of clothing, and having done so, keep that piece off the table. As you can see, it's been quite some time since I played this game, and I've forgotten all the tricks that I used to use. I haven't actually completed all the levels, but I have completed at least one of those, and Inez being the easiest one, I certainly have completed that, but you won't be seeing any of those completed photos on this play guide, and if you want to see any naked ladies, well, you can get to see those on the Lemon Amiga website. Just click on this game and then you can view those photos on your HD TV. But right now, I'll just give this a basic play, and I haven't played this in many years, so let's see if we can remember a few tricks. First of all, it's a good idea to decide if you want to raise or drop from the get-go, and sometimes if a hand is not worth it, it's best to drop, and sometimes if it's absolutely not worth it, it's best to raise 25, the maximum, and hope you can bluff your way out of that situation and gain that pot. Remember, we can always change all 5 cards during the call if we like, and so we can always change those to our heart's content. But you can see I'm trying to keep the pairs together and fail miserably, so sometimes the best laid plans, unfortunately, don't get you the pot. Sometimes even a lowly pair can win a round, so you have to make sure that at least you have a pair if you're going to start betting, and then sometimes you'll just win a round just like that. You can see my pot is being raised and the lady's pot is only at the last 30-40 credits, you can see, so hopefully taking over that barrier when she reaches 0, then we'll get the first item removed. Of the many hundreds of adult-themed games which were released on the Amiga, there were only 14 of those which made it onto the Lemon Amiga database as strip poker based, and that doesn't include all the Klondike games and all the games with adult themes. And of the strip poker games, most of those, it has to be said, were coded by the same guy, as we shall see just a little later on, and so adult-themed games on the Amiga were possible even in 1989 when this was released, thanks to digital technology. And this was actually the second version of this game. The original Hollywood Poker was released in 1987 by a team known as Diamond Software for Line, and Diamond Software was headed up by the same guys. So this was Hollywood Poker 2, and you can see the graphics have actually improved over the original, and the theme and the presentation, along with this great music, really adds to the depth of this game. You can see when things get very close and the lady's pot is almost to the floor, you have to be very careful which hands you pick. And you certainly want to pick a good hand so that it sends her way over that margin so that she can't easily win that item of clothing back. After every stage is completed, we will be given another great piece of music by Chris Hulsbeck, and of course another photo to admire as well. Even though we had a number of bad hands there on the margin, if it's possible we can get a really great hand and we can win that item again, and sometimes we can really rush this level by getting great hands in a row, but when everything is against us and everything we seem to do is a mistake, then sometimes we can be battling for hours. Hollywood Poker Pro was all coded by Holger Gierman, and he began on the Amiga with Reliant software with games such as Spaceport, released in 1987, and tame games like The Pink Panther, released in 1988, which I played and I thought that was absolutely appalling. And also in 1987 he was given the game Western Games, which I didn't think was too bad. But after 1987's Hollywood Poker, he then moved on to Hollywood Poker Pro in 1989, not 1992 as listed on the Lemon Amiga database, and he then went on to Penthouse Hot Numbers in 1992, along with Sexy Droids in 1992, and the deluxe version of Penthouse Hot Numbers appeared in 1994, and his last game on the Amiga was German only, that was Bing, and that was a sexy cartoon animation game, and that appeared in late 1995. Holger Gierman also choreographed the introduction dance with Veronica Mosinger, and he was very much the overseeing eye when it came to adult themes on the Amiga. The surrounding graphics you can see were created by Frank Nust, and he also worked with Holger Gierman with Dieter 07 in 1990, one of his few unsexy games, but was a great game, particularly on the Commodore 64, and also he created the graphics for Fate Gate of Dawn, published by Reliant Software in 1991. The pictures you can see were photographed by Marcel Egli, or Egli perhaps, and were digitized using the Newtek. And the music was then laid on after all of that by Chris Hulsbeck, and of course he created music for Gem X, BC Kid, Rock and Roll, the full Turrican series, Apidia, and games like X Out and Z Out, and a few more titles on the Amiga. I played this particular game for over 20 minutes, and in the end I didn't get anywhere with this model, and so I'll have to call it quits. You can see my final hand looks like a straight, and that would have been great, but sometimes playing the same model for too long gets a little bit boring, so I drop that hand, and that returns us back to the title screen, and I think you can press escape as well at any point during the game, and you can choose a new model. Ines, or perhaps Inez if she's a French lady, is perhaps, well, to my mind, the most beautiful of all the four ladies on offer, and let's not mention Frances because, well, she is a little iffy, in the words of Kim Lemon, who actually played this game and responded on the Lemon Amiga website. So nobody ever played Frances as far as I know, and it's a mystery why she's in there. But I always liked the Inez character, and I think she has the best playing style because she is the easiest out of the four, and that means sometimes this makes for the most fun. especially like the bass-driven guitar music in this game, and coming from a Commodore 64 background in the 1980s, the bass in this game was one of the things which blew me away, and this was one of the games that I played as an introduction to the Commodore Amiga way back when, and it was one of the games which really took the Amiga and showed what it could do with its ham mode. Ham stands for hold and modify, and it means that the colours are held on screen pixel by pixel, modified pixel by pixel, and that means that each one of those pixels can be actually one of 4096 colours. And that means basically that ham mode means that we can have photorealistic graphics. And it's crazy that a bunch of pixels on the screen can look very much like a woman, but they certainly do, particularly later on when that woman appears in much more detail. Just like normal poker, sometimes you can have runs of good luck and runs of bad luck, and sometimes you can be hanging out on the limb forever trying to win a small battle against the big war. And sometimes small battles can extend back and forth, and the pots can merge between you back and forth quite sometimes. And this is not Texas Hold'em, we don't get multiplayers either, which adds to the pot and the mix. So sometimes this one-on-one poker situation can get quite intense sometimes, and quite frustrating at others. Sometimes it can also be a battle to stay alive and to stay afloat in this game, and you can see the U total, which is us, can soon deplete. And once that depletes, it's sometimes a hard battle, but yet again, one big hand where we can bet deep and lure our competitor in can sometimes win us back 100 points in this game, and that means that makes the job much easier. So on that last hand I managed to win 70, and I am actually playing this on the emulator, and that means that the credits you can see at the bottom which tell us which hand that we have, and yes, the computer will tell us which hand that we have, whether it's a flush, a straight, a pair, and a running flush and things like that, but those flash on and off pretty quickly on the emulator. If you have a bog Amiga 500, then those move relatively more slowly. But apart from that, you can see that this game moves at a great pace, and once again, if you can chain a few good hands together and bet deep with those, then hopefully you can lure the competitor over a hill, and that means that on the other side of that hill you gain some progress. Finally, we get to stage 2 in this round, and we get to admire our progress along the way. If we use the mouse pointer and wave that along that picture, that will make a rectangle appear, and when we click the mouse button we can actually zoom in on parts of that picture if we like, and that will zoom in high res mode so we can check those things out. And I guess the detail and the high res mode of this game really makes it stand out from the other competitors. All the ladies are very nice, well, 3 of those ladies are very nice at least, and so the graphics on offer give us just about enough illusion to flash out a great experience. the atmosphere and the presentation of this game, and it's very thematic, certainly a step up from other games that I've seen, very blocky attempts on other platforms, and it really is a refined deluxe game. And so moving on to those scores, the Amiga User International magazine gave this 50%, ASM magazine gave it 58%, and the Games Machine gave this game 72%, contrasted with PowerPlay, who only gave Hollywood Poker Pro 38%. And the highest score I could find, ironically, was on the Lemon Amiga database, and that score is currently 77%, which gives Hollywood Poker Pro an average score of 6 out of 10. Thank you for viewing another Lemon Amiga Playguide and review, and I hope you remember this game. I certainly remember this, and I had this on copy back in the day. We'll be back with another Playguide next week. Thank you.